The neon-drenched skyline of Oakhaven hummed with rain. High above the chaos, a dark silhouette perched atop the gargoyles of the Grand Obsidian Bank. He was the Sentinel, a nocturnal vigilante bound by a strict code of justice. Below him, slipping through a shattered skylight with impossible grace, was Vesper. Known to the underworld as the Silk Feline, she was a master thief whose heart was as elusive as her steps. The Sentinel dropped through the skylight, landing silently on the marble floor. "You're late, Vesper," his voice echoed, deep and gravelly. Vesper smirked, her golden eyes flashing behind her leather mask. She adjusted her suit, adjusting a pouch filled with rare jewels. "A lady never rushes, my dark knight. Besides, I knew you'd follow me." A natural tension sparkled between them, a dangerous mix of rivalry and undeniable romantic attraction. For months, they had played this cat-and-mouse game across Oakhaven's rooftops. But tonight was different. Vesper hadn't come for money. She was hunting a secret blueprint hidden in Vault Zero. Before the Sentinel could step closer, the security doors sealed with a metallic thud. The lights flickered, turning blood red. "Looking for this?" A voice smooth as silk purred through the intercom. On the vault monitor appeared a man. He didn't look like a typical monster or psychotic criminal. He was devastatingly handsome, wearing an immaculate tailored charcoal suit, with piercing ice-blue eyes and a sharp jawline. He smiled, a smile that could charm a city or destroy it. "Allow me to introduce myself," the man said, adjusting the obsidian cufflink. "I am Lord Julian Vance. And you two have just stepped into my trap." Vesper crossed her arms, masking her concern with sass. "And who invited the model?" "I invited myself," Julian chuckled smoothly. "Tonight, the Sentinel falls, and Oakhaven belongs to me." Suspense hung heavy in the air as poison gas began pouring from the vents. The poisonous crimson fog filled the vault rapidly. The Sentinel immediately unclipped a miniature respirator from his belt and slammed it over Vesper's face before she could protest. "Hey, what about you?" Vesper gasped, her voice muffled behind the mask. "I can hold my breath." "Follow me," the Sentinel grunted. With a swift movement, he fired his grappling hook toward the reinforced ventilation shaft above. Bounding off the steel walls, he kicked through the heavy grate, pulling Vesper up just as the gas engulfed the floor below. They collapsed onto the cold steel roof of the building, heavy rain washing away the chemical stain. Vesper pulled off the mask, staring at the Sentinel. For a brief second, the stoic vigilante touched her cheek, making sure she was unharmed. The unspoken affection between them was undeniable, forged through shared scars and midnight rooftop encounters. "Julian Vance isn't a common thug," Vesper warned, her playful tone disappearing. "He's a billionaire industrialist. He owns half the tech sector in the city. Why is he coming after Vault Zero?" "Because Vault Zero holds the drive containing Oakhaven's master power grid access," the Sentinel replied, analyzing the holographic data on his gauntlet. "If Julian gets that drive, he can black out the entire city and disable every security system in Oakhaven." "He already has it," Vesper said softly, pulling out an empty velvet case she had stolen from the vault. "The vault was empty before I even got there. He set us up." Suddenly, the night sky lit up. Julian's handsome face was projected across every digital billboard in the city. "Citizens of Oakhaven," Julian's calm, hypnotic voice echoed through the streets. "Your so-called protector is a fraud. By midnight, your city will belong to a new king." Inside a hidden sanctuary beneath the city, the Sentinel and Vesper pored over intelligence maps. The tension in the room was palpable. They operated on opposite sides of the law, yet their connection was undeniable. "You don't have to do this, Vesper," the Sentinel said softly, stepping closer to her. "Julian is ruthless. He operates with a surgical charm that makes him twice as dangerous." Vesper stepped into his personal space, looking up into his hidden eyes. She reached out, her gloved fingers gently tracing the edge of his jaw. "I don't leave my partners behind, big guy. Besides, no handsome billionaire outsmarts me and gets away with it." A faint smile crossed the Sentinel's lips before he pulled back to focus on the screens. "Julian's network shows a massive power draw at the Old Harbor District. He's building an EMP pulse device to wipe out Oakhaven's infrastructure. Then we crash his party," Vesper grinned, drawing her twin steel whips. They arrived at the harbor under the cover of a dense fog. The abandoned warehouse was heavily fortified with high-tech mercenaries. Julian Vance stood on an elevated platform overlooking a massive, glowing generator. Even in a damp warehouse, he looked effortlessly elegant, reviewing code on a clear tablet. "He really is annoyingly attractive," Vesper whispered from the rafters. "Focus," the sentinel muttered, though a hint of jealousy flared in his chest. Before they could strike, Julian looked directly up into the shadows where they hid. "I know you're up there, my friends," Julian said, offering a warm, charming smile. "Did you really think my scanners wouldn't pick up your heartbeats? Especially when they're beating so close together." A sudden sonic wave blasted through the rafters, shattering the beams. The sentinel grabbed Vesper, twisting his body in midair to absorb the impact as they crashed onto the concrete floor below. Mercenaries flooded the floor, firing stun weapons. The sentinel surged forward like a cyclone of shadow, disarming 3 men in seconds with precise martial arts. Beside him, Vesper moved like liquid silk, tripping guards with her whip and vaulting off their shoulders with acrobatics. Together, they fought as a synchronized unit, his raw strength balancing her speed and deadly elegance. Between strikes, their eyes met, exchanging unspoken vows of protection. "Impressive," Julian said smoothly, stepping down the stairs. He didn't even raise his hands to fight, instead, he pressed a remote. Steel shock collars shot out from hidden floor panels, clamping around the sentinel's neck and Vesper's wrist, binding them together with high-voltage energy. The sentinel roared in pain, trying to pull the collar off, but the electrical current surged, dropping him to one knee. Vesper knelt beside him, holding his arm tightly as the current pulsed through both of them. "You see, love makes you weak," Julian purred, standing over them with a cold, handsome smirk. The great vigilante of Oakhaven, brought down because he was trying to shield a thief. How poetically tragic. Julian walked toward the control panel of the EMP device. "In 5 minutes, the pulse will detonate. The city will go dark, my private security force will take over, and you too will be incinerated in the core blast." As Julian turned his back to monitor the countdown, Vesper leaned close to the sentinel's ear. Pain was radiating through her body, but her mind remained razor-sharp. "I have a hairpin made of titanium alloy in my suit," Vesper whispered rapidly, her breath hot against his neck. "I need you to create a distraction. A big one." The sentinel looked into her eyes, trusting her completely. "Do it." Gathering every ounce of his legendary willpower, the sentinel fought through the electric shock, standing up with a guttural roar. He grabbed the heavy steel cable connecting their restraints and ripped it toward himself, short-circuiting the main power junction on his side. Sparks exploded violently across the floor. "What?" Julian turned, his cool demeanor slipping for the first time. In the blinding flash of sparks, Vesper used her titanium hairpin to pick the internal lock of her wrist restraint. Free in seconds, she flipped over Julian's head, kicking the detonator remote right out of his hand. The remote shattered on the ground. Julian gasped, his handsome face contorting in rage as his composure shattered. "You insolent brat," he snarled, pulling a hidden high-tech blade from his cane. The sentinel smashed through his own damaged neck collar, stepping out of the smoke. He stood shoulder to shoulder with Vesper. "The party's over, Julian," the sentinel grunted. "The pulse is already locked in." Julian laughed hysterically, lunging forward with shocking martial arts speed. "You're too late." The final duel erupted in the heart of the harbor facility. Julian fought with lethal, elegant precision, swinging his shock blade with deadly intent. But he was fighting two hearts acting as one. Vesper leapt off a steel crate, wrapping her whip around Julian's blade arm and pulling it back. The sentinel moved in instantly, delivering a devastating combination of strikes that shattered Julian's armor and sent the handsome villain crashing into the main generator control panel. With 10 seconds left on the EMP countdown, the sentinel jammed his gauntlet into the override slot, uploading Vesper's stolen security codes. *3, 2, 1. System disarmed. The generator powered down with a low whine. Oakhaven's lights stayed on across the bay. Julian lay defeated amidst the wreckage, his pristine suit ruined, staring up in disbelief as police sirens wailed in the distance. How did you bypass the lock?" he wheezed. "You underestimated us," Vesper said, placing her boot lightly on his chest before picking up the stolen data drive. "And you never mess with a girl's city." Minutes later, as the police stormed the docks to arrest Julian, the Sentinel and Vesper stood on the highest ledge of the harbor crane, watching the sunrise paint the Oakhaven sky in gold and pink. Vesper turned to the Sentinel, stepping close and gently pulling down his mask just enough to expose his lips. She leaned in, pressing a soft, lingering kiss against his lips, a reward for a night of surviving chaos together. "Until next time, my knight," she whispered with a wink. Before he could respond, she threw herself off the ledge, opening her glider wings and melting into the morning mist. The Sentinel watched her go, a small, rare smile breaking across his face as he vanished into the shadows of the city he swore to protect.